let's take a look at example number 2 here. I've got a pretty big fraction here, 24 over x squared y to the 6th z to the 7th over negative 8 x y squared z to the 5th. I'm going to actually just take each of the like terms and divide them individually, and that will give me my simplified answer. So 24 divided by negative 8 gives me negative 3. And then I have x squared divided by x. So that is basically x to the 2 minus 1 power. Then y, I'm going to subtract 6 minus 2. Z, I'm going to subtract 7 minus 2. And when I simplify those, I get negative 3x y to the 4th z squared. And there you have it. Properties of exponents. Since x to the negative a is equal to 1 over x to a, we also know that 1 over x to the negative a is x to the a power. So if you take a look at this, okay, again, like I said before, any number raised to a negative power, you're just going to flip that and find the reciprocal of that number. So same thing here. Here's our original fraction, 1 over x to the negative a power. The negative a power just brings me to the reciprocal of that fraction, and I flip it upside down. A to the negative 2 power is going to be 1 over a squared. 1 over 5 to the negative 2 power now is going to be 5 squared, because I just flip this. All right. Now, let's say we have x to the negative 4th power, y squared. Then that means I'm just taking x to the negative 4th power, I flip it, find the reciprocal. And I have 1 over x to the 4th power. And then y squared. Now I can simplify that too and rewrite it so that it's a little bit easier to read. Y squared over x to the 4th. All right, now let's take a look here. 2x to the negative 2 power. My 2 stays on the numerator. Then the x to the negative 2 power, that I find the reciprocal of it. Flip it. And it becomes 1 over x squared. And then I can just rewrite it simply as 2 over x squared. Now let's see, we have this raised to the 3rd power first. So we can actually simplify this first. Okay, remember our properties, when we have a term raised to a power, we multiply those exponents. So we're going to take negative 3, cube it, because that's cubed right there. Then I'm going to take this term, x to the negative 2 power, and then I have x to the negative 2 power times 3, or cubed. And then if I simplify that, I've got negative 27, because negative 3 cubed is negative 27, times x to the negative 6 power. Well, what happens here if I have this term to the negative 6 power? Remember, I'm going to flip that and find the reciprocal of that. That's going to be 1 over x to the 6th power. And then when I multiply and simplify, it's going to be negative 27 over x to the 6th power. Here we have a fraction in our original term, and then we have x to the negative 3 power. But this is to the negative 2 power. Well, let's take a look here. 1/3 raised to the negative 2 power. We'll simplify that in a minute. The x is raised to the negative 3 times negative 2 power. So the negative 2 power flips this upside down. So that's how I get 3. So now this is 3 squared. for the x, because -3 times -2 gives me a +6. So then that stays like that. And then so my final answer now is 9x to the 6th power. For the quotient property, we had mentioned already, you've got x, the same base, then when you're dividing the two powers, you subtract the two powers. When you have a negative exponent, you find the reciprocal and you flip the fraction. When you have a 0 exponent, any number raised to 0 power is going to be 1. Divide and express the answer in positive exponential form. We've been seeing a lot of examples with negative exponents, but there will be many times you will be asked to rewrite that negative power into a positive exponential form. And you're going to probably be wondering, how do we do that? Well, let's take a look at all this right here. First, we need to isolate the like terms. Okay, 34 over -18. And we can simplify that, but we'll do that later. Now, x to the -3rd power and x to the -6th power. Remember, we subtract -3 minus -6. Then we have the y's, and you have y to the 2 minus 2 power. Your z's, you have -5 minus -2. And now we can take each of those and start simplifying. -34 over 18 is going to, I can reduce each of those by 2. So -17/9. If I divide it top and bottom by 2, that's what I get. -17/9. Then here, x, okay, I've got -3 minus -6. That's going to become positive, okay, -3 plus 6. And then here, y, 2 minus 2 is 0. Z, I've got -5 and then minus -2. So that's going to give me -3 or -3. Now, the whole thing is going to be negative because that's where my negative sign is for the whole problem. 17, then I'm going to have times x cubed. Y to the 0 power, remember that's equal to 1. Then I have z to the -3rd power. Remember, a negative power or negative exponent is going to, that means that I have to flip this number and find the reciprocal. So then this goes into the denominator. And then I have 9z cubed. And that's how this becomes a positive exponent. And then this is my final answer. Or you can simplify without the 1. And then now this is my final answer. Okay, the proper power of a quotient is equal to the quotient of the powers. Remember, quotient means to divide or separate, right? So, if I have a fraction, okay, and this whole fraction is raised to a certain power, I have to take the quotient of the powers. So basically I'm going to distribute this power to the numerator and the denominator, or divide it up into the numerator and denominator. So now a is raised to the n power and b is raised to the n power as well. Okay, if I simplify here, leaving all the variables in the numerator. Okay, so we've got several terms here. We're going to have to look at one by one. Okay, first, well, if you simplify, okay, each term, this term right here, y to the cube power, or y to the third power, that's what this here, I have y cubed. X squared now, that's also cubed because that's inside the parentheses. So that's going to be x to the sixth power. I need to, remember, x squared raised to the third power, I multiply those two exponents. And then here, same thing. I'm going to distribute the power through each of these terms. X cubed squared, that becomes x to the sixth. Y to the negative fourth power squared becomes y to the negative 8th power. But I need to simplify this now even more, because this fraction is now multiplied by this. And since this is division, okay, then it's x to the 6 minus 6 power. And then I have y cubed plus negative 8. Because I'm multiplying those two, the y's, and then I add the two exponents. So I end up with x to the 0 power, y to the negative 5th power. And this becomes y to the negative 5th power, because this basically becomes 1, right? And with that, I could actually, y to the negative 5th power, you could leave that, but if the instructions say to leave it as a positive exponent, is actually going to be 1 over y to the 5th power. Now, an expression containing negative exponents in the denominator is not considered to be simplified. So, if you have a fraction where you've got top and bottom, numerator and denominator, and the denominator, the number on the bottom, is negative, that's not simplified. You need to simplify that. It is generally preferable to use only positive exponents in a simplified expression. So you're going to want to always keep your exponents positive. All right, here is your assignment for tonight.